We are in a battlefield, where a dragon and a human were facing each other. The reason was to rescue the princess who had been kidnapped by the same dragon years ago. The princess thanks him for coming to save her, and in return offers the knight to kiss her toes. This was the ultimate privilege for a knight. But our prota rejects him. He had no capacity to do something so degrading. The princess, surprised, asks him, "Then why did you come to rescue me?" Our prota tells her that he is confusing his intentions. He had not come for her. A little embarrassed, he tells her that his intentions, from beginning to end, was the evil dragon. The ambition to marry the princess did not interest him. The only thing that caught his attention in this game was to kill the evil dragon. But back to reality. Our protagonist was a simple student who was playing a video game in class. His teacher hits him. It was forbidden to play in class. He cannot believe that a person loses his future to be always playing video games, while still hitting him, scolds him for having such low grades. Surely your parents are disappointed with you. Our protagonist holds the teacher's book to stop, but this bothers the teacher even more, and full of anger gives him a blow so hard that the body of our protagonist begins to enter the video game itself. Surprised, he could not believe he had entered the video game. He could not control his body and began to fall at full speed towards the dragon, and in a collision their mouths collide, so to speak. The protagonist's sword flies out and breaks the chains of the princess. The princess is shocked by the scene in front of her, so she starts to misunderstand the situation. The hero tries to explain to her what happened, but before that could happen, the princess apologizes for interrupting the moment, and before the hero can stop her and explain, she leaves. The dragon was angry, so taking advantage of the distraction of our prota, proceeds to attack him with all his power. He falls burned. He thought he was going to die. His luck was bad even in a video game. But a sharp voice insults him, tells him that it was all his fault. Bastard who had stolen his first kiss. For committing such mundane acts, he had been transformed into a woman. Our prota thinks she is very pretty, despite being an evil dragon. We'll call her waifu. Sounds better than evil dragon. The waifu hits him. She didn't like that our prota made fun of her. He gets tired and apparently holds the girl's tail. Suddenly the waifu gets paralyzed. She insults him and asks him, "How did you discover my weakness?" That was the weakest point of her body. If someone touched it, it made her feel very comfortable. Our prota, knowing this, bothers her a little. She can't control herself. She kept insulting our prota. He orders her to stop bothering her. Suddenly our prota starts to hear voices. They were knights coming to rescue the princess. Our prota looks at waifu's tail and finds it very suspicious, so he tries to hide it. The knights arrive. They announce that it comes from the king. They had heard that a knight had saved the princess from the evil dragon. The knights find the prota and the waifu in a strange position. It's a bit dangerous to put her on screen. The leader of the group yells at our prota, "How dare you do something fierce and nasty to his noble princess," and in a perverted exchange tells him to ignore them. They can do whatever they want. Our prota asks them why they call her princess. One of them asks if that wasn't the princess. They had seen the princess before, but that was a long time ago. She was still a child. The captain even says that if you looked at her closely, she was actually more beautiful than before. They were sure she was their princess. They asked him to accompany them. The king was waiting for them. The protagonist asked if he should go too. The captain answered in the affirmative and called him Highness Wang Ju. This because he was the hero who saved the princess. Although he reminds him that he cannot become king, but this our prota did not care. The waifu, tired, tells him, "Who is going to be princess? I'm an evil dragon." But before finishing, our prota covers her mouth and lies, saying that the princess had said she was very hungry. Already in the royal palace, the king was crying with happiness to see his daughter again after 10 years, but the queen had some suspicions. She remembered that her daughter had dark hair. The king ignored her concerns. He said that they were simple details. While they were talking, the princess's brother, who was a pervert, had a while looking at his sister's body. While the waifu was eating, one of the maids corrected her, telling her that as a princess she should cut the food and eat in an elegant way. The waifu just looked at her a little annoyed, and in one bite she ate the whole chicken. Everyone was surprised. They did not remember the princess being so different. Suddenly the front door breaks. A voice exclaims that the girl with the white hair is not the princess. This was the girl from the cave. The real princess confronts her father and yells at him that she was the real princess. The king was a little nervous. The prota knew this was going to go very wrong. The prince is left thinking. He didn't know which of the two was his daughter. The royal princess gets angry when she sees her father's indecision. You can't even recognize your biological daughter? You're a bastard. Even donkeys are more reliable than you. She gets so angry that she hits her idiot father. The king remembers that attitude and tone of voice, and realizes that she was his real daughter, and crying they hug her and apologize. Our prota tries to run away. He knew he was finished. He had lied and deceived the king, but before escaping a sword crosses his path, the princess asks him, "Why are you so desperate to leave?" The prota turns and greets her nervously. The princess, surprised, remembers who it is. It was that perverted knight who kissed the dragon's lips in the cave. The prota shouts that it was a misunderstanding. Like true weirdos, the king congratulates him for what he had done, and the queen blushes to think of all the things the prota could do with a dragon. The astonished prota asks, "Where is the sanity in this family?" The princess points to the waifu. She still had something to settle with that fake princess. She didn't know that girl was the evil dragon. This one approaches and yells at her to stop eating her family's food, calling her vulgar and bad. The waifu burps because of everything she had eaten. The angry princess orders the guards to be brought in. She was going to make sure the prota and the waifu died. Our prota tries to put all the blame on her waifu, but she loudly tells him that he had forced her to come. He should be a responsible idiot. One of the guards attacks our prota and the waifu. This narrowly misses. Everyone had surrounded our prota. He gets serious. He was not going to die in a video game, and without holding back he invokes his sword, thus launching a powerful attack. The guards thought it was his end, but something unexpected happens. Due to an error in his console, he had been disqualified as a player. The princess exclaims that this was justice NPC. She mocks the protagonist. Before, she thought he was someone amazing. Our prota can only dodge her attacks. The princess had cornered him. She was going to leave our prota childless. But suddenly she is hit and sent flying. The waifu reveals that she is actually the evil dragon. She had to protect our protagonist because this was her long-term meal ticket. The royal family, foolish as always, is delighted with the waifu's protective words, oblivious to the fact that it was actually the evil dragon. The princess and the waifu get into a fight. The waifu attacks the princess, burning her a bit. Then the princess proceeds to fight back. Editor, after this part, the whole chapter is about the waifu and the princess fighting in a silly way. The princess takes advantage of our waifu's distraction and launches a definitive attack. Our prota gets serious seeing the great power of the attack, and raising his right hand, he summons the thunder sword, using a thunder incantation to protect our waifu. Even if the attack doesn't work, it can be used as a defense. This mocks the game. Even with disadvantage he could win, but because he raised his hands, he summons a lightning bolt unintentionally, thus destroying the whole palace floor. The game itself mocks our prota. He was falling at full speed, but suddenly he is stopped by something. Our waifu had turned back into a dragon. She tells him that she didn't really want to save him. Just by chance he had fallen on her. They both leave. The princess looks at them and promises to find them and take revenge for destroying her castle. The prota feels very relieved. At that speed they could not catch them. He thanks the sky that the waifu can still fly. She says she does not know how she did it. She had not been able to fly again since she was a child. The prota asks her, "So what are you doing now?" She does not know, and suddenly they start to fall. The prota yells at her and orders her to just keep flying. The waifu scolds him. It would have been better if he had kept quiet. Thus he's crashing and falling into a hut. The prota falls on top of the waifu, in a strange position. For safety, I will not put the image. While they were embarrassed, someone interrupts them. He says that he had previously tasted wolf, bear, and lion milk, but never from a dragon. This would be interesting. Our prota apologizes to the girl. We'll call this girl Lan. He tells her that they are just passing through and didn't want any trouble. She suddenly throws a knife at him and insults them. How dare they break into the establishment of the most powerful imperial merchant in the lands of Aslan. Our prota looks around and mocks the girl. This was not an imperial market, but more like a dirty shack. She excuses herself by saying that on the day of the actual trade exam she had overslept, but according to her the pass rate was 99%. So you were the only loser in the family who couldn't get up early. Lan gets angry and orders her to shut up, and orders her to sell her the dragon that is next to her. If she got the big evil dragon she could train it as a milk-producing animal, and the business academy would accept her to see the specimen she had gotten. Our waifu hearing this gets angry and hits her. Both were fighting while our prota was just making a perverted face. Suddenly they hear something, and when they look they realize it was the princess. The princess orders to interrogate all the villagers. Lan is surprised to see a member of the royal family of the empire. She is stunned to see her beautiful, noble and heroic, and the sacred emblem shining in the daylight. She looked like a goddess of war. Our prota tells her that she is really not that powerful, but before she can finish the sentence, Lan starts shouting, "Great goddess of battle, there are very suspicious people here." Our prota and the waifu shut her up. They were going to get into serious trouble if the princess found them. The prota holds Lan's tail, remembering that this was the beast's weak point. This had worked before with our waifu. The great weakness of the beast maidens is their tail. The waifu sweared to Lan, seeing that this one was salivating. She didn't want to dirty her tail. Lan starts to insult them. He had made her feel so strange in her sacred land. Our prota stops her and asks her, "Will you inform the guards after we leave?" Our prota, seeing her face of doubt, picks her up. He would take her with them. This one was joking, but this is the kind of girls I want to have in my collection. The waifu accepts. Taking her with them would be the best way to prevent her from ratting them out. Our prota is surprised, seeing that she accepted. But in her thoughts our waifu was a little jealous. Lan asks where they are taking me. The prota says there's a forest behind, so they were going to hide there first. These two never intended to hurt her to silence her. It seems that aren't such bad people after all. As they were entering the forest, our prota comments that she is very heavy. Our waifu says she is hungry. Could they eat her? Our prota plays along and accepts, this while Lan hits her. The princess was very angry. They had escaped. She had stupid knights in her power. What good was her help? Her brother interrupts her and tries to reassure her. If you keep looking aimlessly you won't find them. She tells him to stop trying to talk to her wisely. You don't know how to do anything but have prettier hair than a woman. He, somewhat annoyed, tells her that although he doesn't know how to do many things, he knows women very well. No one could beat him. He could smell the pre-production of female animal hormones from not too long ago. And even better, here were two beasts he could smell their trail into the forest. It wasn't too late to catch up with them. The princess thanks him. In the end it wasn't as trashy as she thought. The guards suggested to the princess not to go. There were terrifying monsters in the forest, and deep in the forest was the border of the country. He told them with a strange smile that he would go with her to protect her. If you are so afraid, stay here and wait for us to come back. While the princess was thinking about not letting our protagonist escape, her brother was thinking about not letting his sister escape from him. Editor, this so-called brother doesn't inspire any confidence in me. He looks like a simple pervert. Hey filthy pig, I'm hungry. The protagonist knew it. He was hungry too. If he had known it was going to last so long he wouldn't have sent the cow for food. But suddenly it had arrived. It had found some fruit. Try it. Our waifu didn't want fruit. This one wanted to eat meat. Only an inferior creature would eat such a miserable meal. While this was going on, our perverted prota was wondering where the waifu's tail had come from. He hadn't seen it clearly the last time. Lan angrily told her to get her own food. She only knew how to complain. If only I could beat her she wouldn't be enslaved here by you. To find that food she had suffered many wounds. The waifu, seeing her foot, tries to eat it. She was very hungry. Lan yells at her to let go. She was just a pervert. The excited prota holds them down and tells them to stop. If they were going to do something let them join him too. He is quickly hit when he says this. On the ground he tells them that they misunderstood his words, but the waifu tells him that she knows he came to separate them just to touch them. Somewhat jealous she asks him, "You can't leave this cow. I have been with you all this time, and you are still praising her." He tells her that he also appreciates her very much. Hearing this, the waifu asks him to let her participate, what he would do with the cow. "Do you want me to be more direct? You only have to give me a little to be satisfied." As a pervert this bad thinks his words, and doesn't care if she joins them. The waifu gets excited and pulling off one of her horns, she quickly attacks Lan. "I was scared before. I thought you were going to eat her by yourself. I was only asking you for a bite. It's not too much to ask." Our prota realizes that he had misunderstood. He hadn't said he would eat her. The waifu asks him, "Then why did you agree to let me join?" The prota tells him who said it was that kind of joining. This one was thinking of something else. Lan starts to scream for help. Our waifu encourages her to keep screaming. In the end she likes the prey who was screaming for her life. They start to hear an argument in the distance. Our prota shushes the waifu so that she doesn't intervene. They approach and hide in a bush, and realize it was the princess. She was hurt. Apparently her brother had been hiding his strength. He tells her not to try to strain herself. They were not in the castle, so he would not give in to her. The princess yells at him. He had not brought her to that place to look for the night. "Why the hell did you bring me here?" He calls her a fool and asks her, what is the point of chasing a fugitive? He had brought her here to do things that were not pure. Do you understand me? She insults him and yells at him to stay away from her. He gets angry and confesses to her that he knows she doesn't like him. Since she was little she has always seen him as a cockroach. No matter how hard she tried to like him, she just found him disgusting. He just wanted to be with her at all costs. The princess, hearing everything, yells at him, calling him a pervert. Editor: we have a crazy brother and a sister obsessed with our protagonist, a good family. This one says, if she becomes as dirty as him, she can no longer despise him. Come on dear sister, let's together be the scum despised by the noble royal blood. Our prota could only watch the scene disgusted. He wanted to intervene, but he knew that because of the mistake in the castle, he could not beat him as a disqualified player. But it's not right to let this happen. He had to calm down. There must be another solution. But before he could think of anything else, Lan threw a stone at the princess's brother, shouting at him to let go. Our hero knew there was no turning back. He just had to fight. Lan begins to insult him. He was a scum that insulted the honor of the royal family. As a citizen of the empire of the lands of Aslan, you will not be allowed to bully the princess. The princess tells Lan not to interfere, that she didn't even know her, that she couldn't beat her brother. Lan smiles and confesses that she can't beat him, but she is someone who can, and holding our protagonist, tells the princess that this warrior can beat him. When they see who it was, they both stare at him. Our protagonist gets angry. He has come to save her. At least have a little courtesy. What is that face of disappointment you have, as if you were dying? He tells him that he was just a handsome loser who does nothing but look good. That was not enough for Olive not to take his eyes off you. Squeezing him more, he asks him angrily, how is it possible that he had such beastly girls? He asks him where is his inseparable dragon? Isn't he going to come out to save you? Our waifu knew she had to protect her meal ticket, but she wasn't dressed properly. She was afraid that this pervert would try something weird. But she knew deep inside that she had to be brave and not be afraid of hardship. The princess's brother begins to insult the protagonist. Our protagonist angrily tells him that he was the coward who took his sister to a forest using despicable methods to take advantage of her. Are you the trash prince, that only with women you dare to be a strong man? The prince, upon hearing this, begins to laugh frantically and begins to beat the prota until he is knocked out of breath. The prota, while being knocked unconscious, can see that the prince's state changed. NPC, the same state as him. The prota thinks it is an anomaly, but perhaps this pervert must have gone off his original course, like him. However, since we are both disqualified, how could he be defeated by you? So, he stamps the prince's head on the ground, and full of anger does the same thing countless times while all the girls watch in astonishment. As the prota keeps hitting him, he notices that above him, there is a progress bar. He hits the prince again, and sees that the bar goes up. Then, with great emotion, he starts hitting the prince faster. The more he hits him, the more the bar fills up. The prince tries to give up. But the proto was thinking of going up a few thousand points, with the scum of a prince. But suddenly, the angry princess attacks him from behind, and while insulting him she kept attacking him full of anger. "How dare you, you filthy trash, to do something like that to this princess? You think you're cool? I'm going to feed you with my sword 1,000 times, happy." Our proto takes advantage that the princess is distracted and tries to leave with Lan and our waifu, but before he gets any further he is stopped. The princess tells him that it is rude to leave without saying goodbye. He was as rude as always. This woman was crazy. She had just finished with her brother a moment ago, and her personality is still the same. The princess slowly approaches the main character. But this one just put her hand on her shoulder, and thanks her for saving her. She didn't expect people to be so kind. "Since this is the case, I will forget the things of the past. After all, I am not a bad or cruel princess. Just kiss the feet of your princess, to show your regret." She expected the proto to refuse. After all, anyone who has seen the princess in such a state of shame must die. But the proto surprisingly accepts the princess's request. Like a pervert, he asks the princess if she is okay. She almost falls down from the surprise, but our proto stops her fall. "Be careful, silly princess, here is your knight." The princess felt strange. Our proto's words were so disgusting, but for a strange reason she wanted to keep listening to them. He slowly gets closer to the princess's face. But before things could escalate, she started hitting him, and after he let go of her, she started insulting him, calling him a creep. Everything had gone according to plan. A young unmarried girl who has lived in a dragon's cave since she was a child can't stand my cloying attack. He makes the sign of love to the princess with his fingers. She was very nervous. She had to run away from this perverted man. While running away, she collides with a knight. The knights were looking for her. They had been gone for a long time. They thought something had happened to the prince and you. The prince looks behind the princess and notices the wounded body of the prince. The princess, very nervous, starts making excuses, telling the knight that it was not the prince. It was definitely not the body of her brother. The knight tries to play along but is wrong. Seeing this, the princess grabs her by the neck. Now that she knew the truth, she couldn't blame her, but before she could finish the knight off, another knight peeks into the scene and informs all the knights that the Olive Princess had killed Prince Raki. But like a bunch of idiots, the message began to change as it passed from knight to knight, so each knight quickly went to the palace to tell the king a different story. The princess, a little relieved, that bunch of idiots were going to tell different stories to my father. In the end, she wouldn't know which one was telling the truth. Back at the palace, the message had become so distorted that they had to get a Chinese to translate it, as supposedly the Olive Princess had said she was going to kill the queen, her own mother. With this, the king was stunned, while the queen was serious. As a comedy story, instantly wanted posters appeared. For treason to the kingdom. The princess, seeing the picture they chose, is shocked. The waifu and the cowgirl start to make fun of her. The scared soldiers tell the princess that they had nothing to do with it. Our proto realizes how the princess becomes an NPC because she is out of the original story. He tries to calm her down. The picture was not that bad and she did not want to hurt her father. It was all a mistake. She angrily pushes the proto, did not want his comfort, and angrily tears up the reward poster. She was strong. She was sure any killer with a little brains would not accept this order. The paper falls on the face of a mysterious girl. The frightened princess asks her if she was an assassin. This strange girl turns her face and says nothing, or maybe you are a damn old man. Hearing the insult, the girl gets angry and points directly at the face of the princess. The princess could not believe that this girl wanted to kill her for 10 gold coins. The cowgirl recognizes that bow, the canine teeth, the spirit of resentment along with the crimson flame earrings. Apparently she belongs to the family of hunters and assassins that terrifies even the strongest nobles, the Green-Black family. This was the heiress of the Green-Black family. Inside her were the souls of 18 warriors. Our proto, upon learning everything, could not believe how powerful she was. Suddenly he sees how his waifu was greeting her, and is surprised to see that she was riding on top of a pig. She innocently tells him that she has a nice body. The proto, seeing all this, thought he was dead. The soldiers seeing what happened start to make bad comments about the girl. She starts to get angry listening to all the perverts. The prota shouts to stop, that they could not speak ill of the future heiress of the black-green family. And bravely our prota wants to check for himself if the rumors were true. He goes out silently, and the girls ask him if he saw something strange. The doubtful one says he saw something out of place. He believed that this person was a fake. There was no doubt. She had something that a first-class assassin would not have, a boxer with pink bunnies. This one was annoyed while listening as everyone laughed at her. Suddenly our prota screams in pain. The girl had attacked her and had thrown a curse of blood of the green-black family. She was really very angry. The princess confesses that the stranger had a nice body, but it will be no match for her, and out of nowhere takes out a war cannon ready to fight, and the prota as always wonders where the hell she got that cannon. The princess starts the fight. Today they were going to know who is the strongest woman. The heiress of the black-green family calls them arrogant, and jumps off the pig, and when she is in the air whispers a spell, shoots an arrow charged with energy. This was the triple blast of the dragon. The arrow was going with great speed towards the princess. The prota, seeing that they could not dodge it, invokes a wall of flames, which stops the pig and wounds a little to the heiress of the black-green family. The waifu looks at the wound of our hero. It is as if a hyena had bitten you. The princess congratulates the hero, and confidently tells the assassin that it was impossible for him to win 2 against 1. Although you are strong, you are not at the level of a cannonball. The angry assassin shuts her up and creates an attack with the help of the pig, while the princess charges the war cannon. The prota tries to stop the princess. Now she was a disqualified NPC. Her attacks would not be effective, and as expected the cannon missed and did no damage to the assassin. The princess angrily kicks the cannon. The princess tries to excuse herself. It was just a bad day for the cannon. As today was a bad day for her, she sends our hero to fight the assassin. The hero knew that the princess had surrendered. She just didn't have the guts to confess defeat. But he didn't feel like arguing with her. After all, it was the princess he wanted to kill. He thinks she doesn't want to die, so he plans to leave. The princess asks him to please protect her even though she was angry inside. She tries to seduce him. He couldn't leave her alone. While they were arguing they all left, but the assassin calls them. She had had enough and did not plan to let them go. The hero turns quickly and throws a smoke bomb, but without much effort the assassin finds them and recommends a face-to-face fight. But unexpectedly the waifu comes between them, protecting the protagonist. Although he felt grateful, it bothered him to be minimized by a dragon. The assassin got tired of her games and decided to attack. The arrows were directed towards the waifu, but she chewed them without much effort. Everyone seeing this was stunned. He could not believe it. She had to spit it out or she would die. The main character was annoyed with the assassin. He would not forgive her if she hurt his waifu, but she calmed the situation. She was a first-class beast. Even if it was a megalodon tooth, her stomach could easily digest it. But before the waifu could eat her pig, the angry assassin invokes the spell of life. An evil aura begins to surround her whole body. She was absorbing the demonic energy around her. This was affecting the half-animal girls. The prota, to help her, decides to put a seal and block her magic. This was going to hurt a little, so he asks her to take a deep breath. The assassin summons the souls of the 18 souls trapped inside her. Please release your wrath on the world. Everyone was running away from the dark fog. The scared waifu hugs the prota, but she turns away when she feels an evil presence. This summoning was too powerful. After hundreds of years without being summoned, he had come back to life. This was a being summoned by the black-green family. All the souls of the family's warriors were united and gave life to a demon created only for the battle. The protagonist remembers a story of the game. This was Bluebeard, a man who killed hundreds of people while he was alive. He was going to attack the waifu, but our prota lifts her up and doesn't allow her to be touched by the evil energy. Our angry prota doesn't allow her to touch her. She was his, but the energy was starting to hurt him. The waifu tries to free herself so that the energy stops hurting the prota, but he stops her. It was his decision to protect her. She had no right to stop him. The prota knew that this was going to become an image of NTR story if he let those tentacles touch the waifu. Editor, basically, if he let the evil energy touch the waifu, it is very likely that disgusting things would happen. She understood the situation, so she let the prota protect her. She wasn't going to let some old shitty man lay a finger on her skin. The angry spirit tells her that he hates loving couples like them. Just wait, they will be annihilated at the same time. The prota knew it was his chance, so he throws the waifu towards the princess. He knew she could fly, so he trusted her so they could escape, thus sacrificing himself to be able to save the waifu. The prota ends up in the stomach of the damned old man, but he was soft inside so he could come up with a plan. He had indeed found his weak point. The old pervert asked the waifu if she was sad. He asked her if it was worth crying for that loser, but if she agreed to marry him, it would make her forget the prota. She angrily rejected him. He was an ugly old man, pervert, with bad breath, and not even the ugliest female would want to be with someone like you. A high-ranking female like her could never be with an old geezer like you. The princess blushes at the love the protagonist and the waifu have for each other. The old pervert laughs. No woman has ever insulted him as much as she has, because a female like her doesn't know how to behave. The old pervert told her that he likes the way she acts. Everyone thought how disgusting the situation looked. The old man tried to attack them, but the waifu stopped him, and activating a power inside her, she transformed into a kind of dragon and human. How dare you want to touch her? Not even the protagonist had the chance to kiss her, and to think that he had been devoured by the mouth of a stinking old man enraged her. She screams for the protagonist to return. The old man as a pervert tells him to continue burning him with his flames. Everyone is surprised to see that he was not afraid of the flames of a dragon. The murderer tells them naive. Bluebeard was burned in a burning castle. He burned day and night in the fire of hell after his death. Clearly he is not afraid of the fire of a dragon that has not even awakened his bloodline. The waifu does not know what bloodline means. The assassin orders Bluebeard to finish quickly, and not to be reckless. He cannot finish with such a beautiful female without making her suffer a little, so he attacks her with his energy, making her fall wounded. But before the old pervert did something disturbing that nobody wants to see, our protagonist shouts angrily that he had warned him. If there is something I do not tolerate, even if it turns me into a dead man, is to be made NTR. Edit. NTR is basically the kind of story where one or both people in a romantic relationship end up cheating on each other. This one was attacked with swords while insulting the protagonist. He thought he could break his bone armor with some swords. His toughness was very strong, however he hadn't seen anything. This one is surprised to see no sword. The prota in a loud voice says that a ghost's armpits were very soft as a steak cut by a knife. Bluebeard in a desperate attempt attacks the girls, but the waifu pushes them away with her tail, and before the axe cut the waifu in half, she manages to dodge it although her clothes were damaged in the process. The prota gives her his coat. He had just arrived and he had to help her. The prota planned to look great in front of the waifu to conquer her. The technique of saving the girl in danger never fails. The waifu, thinking that the prota had died, begins to hug him tightly, and then begins to hit him and scold him for making him think he was dead. She was very worried. She hated him. So many blows were killing him, but they are stopped by the sobs of the old man. He was jealous of our prota. He had not experienced such pleasure for years, since his time as an assassin. Crazed, he shouts at the protagonist to enjoy the thrill of killing your wife in front of you. The protagonist, seeing the situation, asks the waifu to get behind him, and when she gets behind him, she inadvertently hurts him again with the needle previously stuck by the assassin. While he was dying of pain, the waifu tries to remove the needle, but this only causes the protagonist to scream in pain. So starting to run because of the pain he felt, screaming, he asks the waifu if she was trying to kill him. She apologizes. She had forgotten that he had a thorn in his side. The pain of that needle did not end, and with an enormous power concentrated in his sword, he connects multiple lethal attacks. Both begin to cry, one because of the pain and the other because of impotence, while we see how the blue-bearded demonic ghost vanishes and disappears from this world. Everyone was happy for having finished with such a despicable being, and because he had gained some experience, his wound did not hurt so much. But the assassin had not given up yet. The assassin asks him why he did not use all his strength when he confronted her. He apologizes for not being able to get serious with her. The prota, taking advantage of the moment, activates a technique and suddenly disappears. And we see how everyone was running for his life. But he stumbles and falls, and they reach a cliff. It would not be so simple to escape, and we see how the assassin was almost about to catch them. The protagonist tells them that he has a plan, but they must trust him. The assassin arrives at the cliff and only sees some pieces of clothing. In the distance she sees a hut. She sees a silhouette, and without thinking she opens the door and stops the unknown girl. It was a wolf girl. She looks at some barrels and goes towards them. The girl, seeing this, starts to cry. The assassin, seeing this, feels bad and approaches the girl and apologizes for hurting her. The assassin asks her to tell her the location of the night. The girl, with tears in her eyes, tells her that they only asked her for the address of the shrine, and they left. She hugs the assassin, knowing she is super strong. If the knight was her enemy, she must be a strong girl. but she asks her how a strong girl can have pink rabbits on her clothes, and embarrassed she turns around. Knowing they are in the shrine, she decides to go out and look for them, and a little embarrassed by all the awkward questions the girl asked her, she decides to leave quickly. She realizes she was a murderer but is surprisingly innocent. The whole group leaves relieved to see that she was gone. The protagonist thanks the girl for helping them. The girl doesn't mind. After all, it was rare to see a handsome knight like the protagonist, and it was the first time she had seen the legendary and powerful dragon. The girl had teased the protagonist a bit for escaping, but then she also teased the waifu for hiding behind a human. The princess wants to leave. This place was horrible and the prota needed a place to take a shower. She still had the smell of the old pervert. And out of nowhere the girl invited them to a huge bath that was inside her small hut. While they were talking, she asks him how he can stand that the label on his head is different from the others. She refers to the category of eliminated game that the prota had. The prota is surprised to know that she could see his gambling status. The prota asks her who exactly she was. She tells him that she was the only daughter of the 15th generation of the Wolf clan, Lester Feuding. The prota tells her that he was not exactly asking her name. She tells him not to be nervous, her ability was not powerful. The Wolf clan was the most fighting race among the Beast clan. Such a powerful race gave birth to a useless girl like her. When she was born, her mouth was so small she couldn't be fed by her mother. Maybe her will to live made her awaken this special ability. She could see the state of people. When she was little, she threatened her mother to find a way to feed her, otherwise she would tell everyone what she did with the prophet next door. Basically, her mother was a whore. The prota tells her that her ability is fantastic, and how did she know those swear words being a newborn? The girl tells him she doesn't want to talk about that. Her mother went to murder the prophet's father so her crime wouldn't be discovered, but she was murdered by her father who had foreseen it beforehand. So Mr. Knight, he also received the title of disqualified for committing illegal things. He tries to explain himself, but the girl stops him. She trusted him. And after all, he was a coward who let himself be chased and almost lost his pants. I forgive you for not having guts. And his experience bar was very long. Before being disqualified, he must be a super powerful person. To complete the bar, he needs to eliminate someone super powerful. He asks her if she had seen a disqualified person like him before. She tells him she recently saw someone, but she doesn't remember. The cowgirl tells them she needs a soap. While she was looking for him, the prota was curious to see the cowgirl. The girl asks him to help her pay for the stove. The prota, as an excuse, tells her that he is very bad at housework, that he could better help by giving the soap to her friend. She accepts, a little bewildered. He, like a madman, runs to the bathrooms, and before passing the soap, intentionally drops the soap, and yells at her to stay still, that he would pick it up. He says this while entering, and when he looks up a little flushed, he cannot believe his eyes. He can't believe what he saw. If you liked the video, like it and comment what you think about this story. If you want other parts, like the video and I will post it as soon as possible.